Hello, and welcome to How to Use Data and Design to Drive Cross-Channel Personalization at Scale, presented by Movable Ink and Yes Marketing. We have a great agenda for you today, and it's going to really help you understand some strategies and concepts to improve your customer experience. My name is Brian Fink. I lead the Strategy Center of Excellence at Yes Marketing. And I've spent 20-plus years working with brands to create personalized experiences for their customers. I'd also like to introduce my colleague, Matt Caldwell.
Hello. Hi. I'm also part of Yes Marketing. I oversee our creative group. I'm based in Portland with Brian as well. And we are an email-centric design agency. Although we do a lot more than email, we do a lot of landing pages, banner, display, social, and others. But we help teams get email done. So we work with Marriott Bonvoy and Olive Garden, See's Candies, Visa, and a handful of other clients to do great email. I'd like to also introduce Julio. Julio.
Hey everyone, my name is Julio Lopez, and I'm an Associate Director of Client Strategy for Movable Ink, and I'm focusing on the retail vertical. So my role within Movable Ink is to partner with key retail clients to identify and deliver frameworks that drive meaningful results. The team I'm on, the client strategy team, represents the strategic consulting arm of Movable Ink. For those of you who may be a little less familiar with Movable Ink, our technology enables digital marketing leaders to create unique, relevant, and compelling visual experiences across email and web and mobile and display at the exact moment of engagement. We work with more than 700 of the world's leading brands, and we have over 300 employees across the globe, which allows us to deliver exceptional regional support and coverage. We also have an extensive partner network and an ecosystem of complementary services and technologies, and we're also a top company to work for and one of the fastest growing companies. And here's a quick snapshot of some of our clients. The only thing that I'm more proud of than this slide is the relationships that we've built with the marketers at these organizations. We've had a terrific number of clients take us with them onto their next company and the one after that. So definitely a testament to the work that we do. So with that, Brian, I'll pass it back to you.
Great. Thanks, Julio. Just a quick background on Yes Marketing. We are trusted advisors for our clients. We work with a number of clients providing data, technology, and marketing services to help them get their customers to Yes. We're part of Info Group, which is our parent company. Info Group is an original compiler of consumer and business data, and we've been recognized by a number of organizations, both for our creative and the experiences we're able to help our clients deliver, but also by industry experts like Forrester, who've both recognized our solutions as Yes Marketing, but also Info Group's leadership as a leader in data. We have an extensive partnership of technology with technology platforms, again, to help our clients really optimize across their entire experience to deliver the kind of experiences for their clients and customers. And that's really where we sit, again, as a provider of services, data, and technology for customers. Here's an example of some of the great brands we work with. We work with a number of amazing brands across diverse industries, both hosting marketing databases, providing data, delivering full service experiences across channels, from digital to email to even direct mail. And we do this with creative analytics and strategy, as well as data and technology, as I mentioned. We're here today, though, to talk specifically about personalization and the challenges around that and how we can deliver better personalization at scale to our customers. The reality is consumers know that companies have their data, and they expect you to use it to deliver that meaningful communication and brand experience. Harris ran a poll earlier this year, and 63% of consumers said they expect that they will have personalized experiences from brand and retailers. And in fact, as consumers get younger, that percentage just goes up. And we know it works. here's some examples of how just very base personalization of including personalization as subject line in an email and the kind of results that can drive. The Relevancy Group did some recent research where they showed that as personalization becomes more advanced, these results continue to improve, with companies gaining an average of 20 to 1 ROI. McKinsey actually found that companies utilizing personalization can increase their retention and revenue by 10 to 30%. So personalization can take many forms. It doesn't just have to be that first name merge into a subject line. It can actually be about reflecting the data attributes that you have on your customers, so whether that's their name, where they live, who they are, what you know about them. It can be reflecting their behavior with your brand, whether that's based on past purchases or email browse activity, or it can be based on the context that your customer is in their customer journey. So where are they interacting with you, and what is going to be the most meaningful experience you can deliver at that point in their journey, or given where they are or the device that they're using. Based on some of our clients, these are some of the common types of personalization that we see used in emails, but this could be also used across websites or other pieces. Obviously, demographic data is very common, but you'll see a number of other elements that you could consider for personalization, whether it's psychographic data, browse data, preference center data that you gather, the activity that your customers are having with you, or where they're responding or engaging with your brand across email or other channels, and then real-time data, including what's going on with your customer, again, in the context of when they're interacting with you, whether that's weather, things that are happening in their location. So there's a number of elements here to consider. Just as some great examples, Honeywell, who's one of our clients here, is doing a great job just reflecting examples based on the data attributes that they have from their clients and how they're interacting with their products. Ulta and West Advantage or West Marine do a great job here reflecting the actual data from customers' interactions with their brand and with their loyalty program. And here's an example from Spartan that really reflects personalization based on where a customer is in their life cycle with the brand. So here Spartan actually communicates differently to their customers based on what races they've competed in, how many, and whether they're even done a race yet, or whether they're a veteran or pro of Spartan's experiences. So if personalization works and 89% of brands say they're doing it, why is there still a gap? 13% of U.S. online customers aged 18 to 24 actually said that, brands make them feel valued. Well, 13% is an incredibly low number, and 5% of consumers say they're actually getting relevant, well-timed offers in their email. Really a significant gap that shows there's work to do and there's opportunity to differentiate yourself and deliver more value to your consumers. So what are the challenges that we see in brands delivering this? Well, typically they fall into one of these three buckets. Do you have the data? Is it accurate and actionable so you can take advantage of it and deliver meaningful experiences to your customers? Is your creative actually developed and designed in a way that it can scale and it can support dynamic content, or is that a challenge for you? Or do you have the technology, and is your technology actually being leveraged to the fullest? These are the three dimensions that we really want to consider, and we'll talk a little bit about each of these as we go forward in this webinar. But here's a framework just to think about taking the steps to improving your personalization, and I recommend that you think about each of these steps and really build some goals or some things that you can achieve if you want to improve your personalization, starting with your customer data, next making it more actionable. Third, once you have that data, are you looking at it, analyzing it, and using it to actually identify ways that you can scale your content or your communications to better deliver experiences for your customers with the use of personas, segments, and models? Are you designing for dynamic content and having a design and creative strategy to really support personalization? Building out content libraries to enact on that personalization and on that creative work, and then Lastly, and very importantly, the opportunity to leverage real-time technology to make sure that you're making that more scalable and also recognizing the context of where your consumer is. When we talk about data, there's 4 types of data to think about to really build that customer record. And many of us as marketers are probably familiar with these terms, but we're talking about zero-party data, which can be hugely beneficial because this is data that comes directly from your consumers, and it's data that they've provided to you, information that they've provided to you specifically to help you improve their experience. You've got your first-party data that you collect through your interactions with those customers. You may have partnerships or relationships with others where you can actually action on second-party data, where customers have told those companies that they're willing to share data with their partners to improve their experience or to get more benefits and value. And then lastly, there's third-party data, which is data collected by a completely third party with no direct connection to the customer, but there are a number of compilers like Infogroup who gather this data and can provide a ton of information about your customers, as well as things like pre-modeled data or model scores, understanding if consumers are new movers or are likely to engage in certain media, et cetera. As I mentioned, zero-party data can be hugely beneficial, and preference centers are a great way to capture that zero-party data. A couple examples of some really strong preference centers here from Community Coffee and West Marine, where they're really focused on getting information from their customers about what's most important to their customers in terms of their interaction with that brand. And once your customer tells you that they value a certain type of coffee or that they use their boat to do a certain activity, these brands can build on that and really enhance the experience. Here's another idea for thinking about how to capture that zero-party data. It's using interactive engagement content like polls. This example was done with Movable Ink for our client Olive Garden, but it was a way for Olive Garden to really learn whether their customers appreciate one of their offerings, in this case early dinner, and then they can use that data down the line in additional emails or for segmentation, but it also encourages that audience to have a reason to engage with their content. And I love this example that Domino's did around the Super Bowl last year with their Piece of the Pie rewards. But this really, by enabling their customers to earn rewards on imagery of any pizza that they were eating, Domino's was able to understand better, how much pizza their customers eat, what kind of pizza they like, if they make it, and building even a library of snapshots of competition. So pretty strong innovation from Domino's to leverage AI to really learn more progressively about their customers. As I mentioned, if you have gaps in that, you can use third-party data to fill those gaps. So there's the data you collect on your customers, but third-party data can really help add or fill missing holes in terms of things that you want to deliver from an experiential standpoint. It's a great way to find out, additional information about household of your customer. As I mentioned, there's pre-modeled data in terms of their interests, their firmographics, where they live, what they do. Just a great resource to fill any gaps that you might have that might help you make your data more actionable. And when I talk about making data actionable, here's a couple things to think about. One, it's really important that you identify where that record of truth is in your organization and create that single view of your customer. Incorporate processes for hygiene, making sure you're keeping your data on your customers up to date. And to do all this, you really need to dedicate resources within your organization who are focused on data management. And if you can put all that together, that's really creating that kind of CDI framework or customer data integration framework and process within your organization. I think this is critical to making sure you can act on the data that you have around your customers. Lastly, I'm just going to touch on some techniques to better scale your content and your creative around the data you have on your customers. And some of the best ways to do that are, again, to analyze your data and use personas, segments, and models. Just some quick examples to go through. See's Candies does a great job leveraging personas. You can see here where they've thought about different content for Valentine's Day in terms of what's important to the males, their male customers versus their customers who are mothers versus their customers who are grandparents, and how they might actually think about gifting or buying See's Candies products related to Valentine's. Another great example from West Marine in terms of applying segments to their welcome stream to be more relevant. So whether you're a kayaker or paddler, you own a sailboat, or you're using a powerboat to recreate with your family, that content's going to be different. They create those segments, and they're able to create a more personalized experience through, a few versions, but that can speak directly to individuals based on their segment. And then lastly, I just want to show these examples from Marriott Rewards, who does a phenomenal job of actually bringing all those different types of personalization together. They're leveraging individual data of their members and reflecting that back to you. They're also basing personalization based on your behavior and your actions that you've taken with them to choose what type of content or offers to show their members and their guests. They're using real-time AI to dynamically serve up the best offers or the best destinations that people are responding to in this communication as they're doing it. And then they're leveraging models based on where they know their guests want to stay or the brands that they're interested in to promote the strongest content or their new hotels to them. So just a great job of bringing all those elements together and the kind of personalization that you can deliver, leveraging that data and those resources. The thing that really makes this work, however, or that's required to deliver on this, is certainly designing for it. And for that, I'd like to hand it over to Matt Caldwell.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about how to use data and design to get results. And design is something that I am focused on. So again, I'm the VP of Creative for Yes Marketing, and I oversee our designers and copywriters. So what I'm going to talk about today is really two things. Template systems, which are a real bedrock for how we work. And then with regard to templates, creating modules within those templates that can be very dynamic and can be highly personalized to gain interest from your audience. So let's just talk first about a template system. A template system is a design once, code once solution. So what I mean is we use templates on all of our different design teams. A template system is a tower of a layout. It is a single HTML document that has a series of stacked modules. These templates help us create email faster because how we use it is when we are briefed from our clients about the contents of an email, our designers, even though they're not developers, but they basically go in to the code, a pre-coded template, they pick and choose modules that are fit to the message content. So they can make long scrolling newsletters or short, simple postcards. Again, most of you are probably familiar and work this way. What we try to do is really have templates, singular, versus multiple ones, because we find that if we really focus on a single template, we are able to update it faster, change it faster, and work better in it. So again, a template system is a single HTML document, a wide variety of modules. You can mix and match and duplicate, delete those modules to make email faster. Now, the benefit overall, though, is the reduction in time for coding. So as many of you know, a lot of times people are designing emails as all images. Then they have to make a separate mobile view. Then the thing gets approved, and it takes a week to code and break it down. And it's just not work that you want to do on a one-off basis. So the beauty of a template system, again, is our designers will go in what we call design into code methodology, and they'll simply delete the modules they don't. They'll create a framework for the email. Then they'll fill it in with different pictures and words and URLs. The benefit of that is when we show our clients the email, it's already coded. It's already images off optimized, and it's already responsive. It can make the browser window, narrow to see the mobile view. That all speeds things up and sets expectations for what they're going to look like. So when the client approves, it can be moved right into the launch system. So we currently operate 5 email design teams. And for all of those clients, whether it's Marriott Bonvoy or Visa Canada or Olive Garden, we hold the template system for them. And we create all new emails from the actual template. And the reason why I point that out is because a lot of teams will create new email by recycling old email. And the only challenge with that is you run into the same rendering errors that you fixed last week over and over again. So how we work, again, we create new email from the template, but when we find an error, we fix it in the field message. And then we apply it to the master template, and we say, okay, we found an error, strange space, let's say in Hotmail. We apply that fix to the master template, and then we version the master template. Okay, we're now in version 2.3. The beauty of that is if you work in an iterative fashion like that, where you're updating your master template, and we actually have a template master the same way you'd have a webmaster, is if you keep that template up to date with the most up-to-date code, all your inbox rendering challenges will go down to 0. So again, in summary, templates can be a really useful way to create email rapidly and really be able to focus on the content of the email, not the coding or the rendering. Now, when it comes to particular templates, we're going to go through some modules that we've added to our templates that are great for personalization. In this case, we're going to look at some of the ones that we've done for Olive Garden. So Olive Garden has a huge master template. You can look on the left side of your screen. You'll see a long tower of a layout. Well, that's actually just 1/3 of it. So it has over 50 modules. We have lots of different types of things we use frequently, like features and carousels, Pinterest-style side-by-side modules. And basically, we have such a large template because we make a commitment to never do the same thing twice. As many of you know, if you're doing the exact same email lockup over and over again, even if the content is changing, if it looks the same, people simply start to ignore it. We call that "I've seen this before" delete syndrome. So one of our commitments that we always bring to our clients is to make sure we're never doing the same thing twice and always mixing it up. And we are able to do that because we have so many different modules in this template. And whenever we create a new module, we add it to our master template so that we can reuse it again. Now, in particular, though, we did create a whole bunch of different modules that are really best for personalization. So let's go through and look at some of those. First off, we have found a really nice success with sort of intrigue marketing, where we do kind of the scratch off and reveal. So in this example, we see on the left side, something big is coming. When a user takes action to scratch off on the landing page, it reveals that, hey, giant stuffed pasta have arrived. We've also used scratch off and reveal within the body of a message. So on the left here, we have our top 5 favorite dishes. As we scroll down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the 1 is scratch off to reveal that favorite dish. So using it in the body of a message can be kind of useful and interesting. And in this case, it's chicken Alfredo, my daughter's favorite. We love to use polls because it's kind of an interactive element. So in this example, we're asking the audience, what's your favorite fall flavor? And the entire message is basically a big click to answer poll. And then it reveals their favorite. We also, on the right here, we've used it as just a third module in the body of the message where a user can vote for their favorite. Another kind of interesting thing that we've done with personalization is using the active time in our content and in our headline. So this is really just kind of an easy way to pull in the current time. And you'll see here, no matter the time of day, you can always find value at our table. So it's not really a countdown timer or anything. It's just using something that's current and relevant and placing it in the layout to attract attention, basically. Something also similar to that is showing the current weather. So these are weather triggers. We set these up once, and they go out depending on if a certain weather event has been reached, and then they trigger it out. But again, very relevant. It seems simple, but again, when we're in a crowded inbox, things like this can get attention and get eyes. So Bert, hurry inside, and then we move on with our promotion. And then, of course, the ever-present countdown timers still work, still interesting. And we don't use them too frequently, but we do reserve them for when something big is happening. And there's nothing bigger than the never-ending pasta pass. So that thing sells out usually in 6 minutes. And so leading up to it, countdown timers can be really interesting. Okay, just one or two more. Maps. I was actually part of a really interesting user-moderated study where we watched eye tracking, and we watched what people were looking at in our layouts. We basically had individuals come into a user lab on the East Coast, and we introduced different layouts, and then we watched what they look at. And one of the things that we were all surprised at is the amount of eye tracking, the amount of eye heat or time spent looking at actual maps. Maps really do get attention. And basically because people are saying, wait, where is this? This looks familiar. This is near me. Oh, it's right across the street. So what we do is for our retailers or for our hospitality groups, if they have a physical location, we love to create a module that basically says your nearest location. And we've actually taken that a little bit further. I'm going to just go back where we've even promoted cross-promoted other brands. So not only where your nearest Olive Garden is, but other Darden restaurants as well. And it's been quite successful. So in summary, hopefully that is some helpful design-related information regarding how to create email faster and more efficiently with template systems, and then some of the ways that we use individual modules to achieve personalization and engage our audience. Okay, with that, I'll hand it over to Julio.
Awesome. Thank you. To both you, Matt, and Brian. Everything you've shared has really been amazing. It's definitely great information for all of us to keep top of mind as we're thinking about how to improve our programs. If we stop and think about it, really what we're trying to do here is address three key questions. What data do we have? How do we activate that data to personalize our marketing efforts? And how do we make the approach scalable? And everything you shared really underscores the need for us to get the answers right. So I want to start the discussion about real time with the topic of email production. So while each company may vary in the amount of time that it'll take them to produce an email, I think that we can all agree that whatever the amount of time it takes, it's certainly much too long. Marketing really is about delivering the right message at the right time. And we'll never be able to deliver that message at the right time if it's taking us over 2 weeks to deploy an email. And that's the average amount of time that passes between conception of an email to its actual deployment. And that in itself is a lot, but bigger companies spend 54% more time, with some taking up to 5 weeks to deploy an email. That's insane. So if we stop also to think about the number of emails that we are developing at any given time, and on average we see that it's anywhere between 8 and 13, it almost feels like we are wasting time. So it's important for us to find ways to reduce the time that it takes to produce an email. But the tricky thing is that there's so many different steps in the production process, from planning to coding to testing and approvals, and then the eventual post and analysis. So when I look at this chart, what I see is that brands are dedicating way too much time to non-strategic and arguably non-value-adding steps. I think that more focus should be placed on email conception and planning, which really is the strategic aspect of email, and also on post-send analysis, which is how we learn what's working and what isn't so that we can continue to improve our programs. There's way too much time dedicated to this middle part, the coding, data logic, and ESP setup, testing, and approvals. But I get it. I think that we may think that this is how email has always worked, and so we may think that we don't have a choice. But really, that could not be further from the truth. If you look at the market, there's software solutions that solve for efficiencies by creating truly reusable content which can slash production times across all of the email production steps. And that frees up time for planning and analyzing performance. And now, I'm not saying that all of the emails are going to build themselves magically. Obviously, we can't expect that to happen across every single touch point. But there is a lot that we can do to improve this middle section of steps. And one place to start, as we were discussing earlier, is absolutely by designing for template systems. This creates that scalability because we know what our assets need to be sized to, and it creates consistency for the brand. But then the question really becomes, how do we fill those templates? There's so many people that are involved in the content creation process that it kind of becomes a bottleneck, and it's not just in email, but it's also across all channels. And that's not just bad because of the amount of labor that goes into it, but also because we end up with generic creative since we can't design content for each and every single individual. So we might be able to create content for larger segments, but really our goal should be true personalization. And personalization is in fact about optimizing the experience and the message to that individual. But that is difficult to do, and that's probably why largely consumers don't feel that the marketing content that they're receiving via email is personalized to individual behaviors. And so I guess that's where dynamic content comes in, where it allows marketers to create that one email, but customize blocks of it for certain subscribers. And we're using current data sets and then also ongoing data collection to enact and power a data-driven personalization strategy. And we expect that if we are able to deliver on consumers' personalization needs, then they would respond favorably and be more likely to take the actions that we want them to take, like converting or making a purchase. So at that moment of engagement, we need to give the individual exactly what they want, whether that is discounts, product recommendations, or inventory information. But the trouble is that by definition, personalization relies on data, and customer data is hardly centralized. It lives across many different parts of the tech stack, your CDP, your loyalty platform, your user-generated content, and so on. So the challenge then across the entirety of the market, though, is that most of these different relationships and these data sources are owned by different stakeholders across the organization. So it necessitates cross-functional communication to connect them. And the reality is that most teams are not encouraged to work cross-functionally, even though many senior executives believe that cross-functional communication is essential to implementing a digital strategy. So while a tech stack could work together to create this more unified customer experience, it really may be difficult for vendors to craft a unified solution, especially when getting face time with the decision makers is a major challenge that they face. So to put it a little bit differently, what we need to do is focus on unlocking value from the MarTech stack. But doing that is not necessarily without challenges. Across all type of marketers, what we see is that the challenges in connecting the tech stack include the fact that we need to integrate across legacy systems. The data needs to be combined across disparate data sources. We need to ensure that the integration is scalable across the organization. And finally, we need to manage the complexity of the deployment to make sure that it's feasible. Now, with that said, there is a fairly simple answer to the overall challenge of personalization, and that is integrated APIs. So instead of building each and every email from top to bottom, from scratch, more and more retailers are taking a modular approach to email, and they're using data that's returned in partner APIs to populate each and every section of the email. And then by layering on business logic, these modules show or collapse based on what is known about the user. So the emails build themselves dynamically by connecting all the different data partners. So in this example, there's been logic that's been applied to each module so that the right content shows and updates in real time. So in effect, this entire email will build itself from top to bottom at the moment of open. Now, I do also want to run you through a few examples of how some of the brands that we work with have found operational efficiencies while delivering personalized content in real time. So this first example is an example from Madison Square Garden. So they have several events each week in venues across the country. So as you can imagine, from an email production point of view, this can become quite difficult to manage. So MSG teamed up with Movable Ink to create a two-touch dynamic email program that included intelligent modules powered by MSG's APIs and additional data sources. So what we saw is that what we ended up with is that these emails now feature real-time personalization that shows each ticket holder a countdown timer that indicates when each person needs to take their seat. They also included a personalized weather forecast for each city, arrival and show times for the event. They also had each individual's suggested entrance specific to their seat location, and also the event's cell phone and bag policy, as well as upcoming events. So a bunch of different data sources pulled into one email to make it relevant for the individual. And so now these campaigns are automated across all 5 of the company's venues, and we've effectively reduced the amount of time needed to manually code an email from 3.5 hours down to nearly 5 minutes, which is a great efficiency win. This next example is from Lenovo. And for them, we tapped into website browse behavior data, essentially setting behavioral targeting that pulls in the last items that a customer browsed. Now, we all know there's many brands that have dedicated abandoned cart and abandoned browse journeys, but this is different because this is a standalone module that lives in a business-as-usual promotional email, and the module either shows or collapses based on business logic. So if the customer has not recently browsed something, then this section of the email simply collapses in real time. And again, we see great results in click-through rate and conversions. And then this last example comes from Sam's Club. And for them, prices and inventory are changing constantly on their website, and the offers in their emails couldn't keep up. So they saw a high volume of customer complaints when an email offer was expired or when the product was out of stock by the time the customer clicked through to purchase. So additionally, Sam's Club was also hand coding all of their emails, which didn't give them a ton of flexibility to add real-time elements that would elevate the customer experience. So to overcome these challenges, they leveraged Movable Ink in their campaigns to develop a data-driven content and campaign automation strategy. So now we're able to pull in real-time inventory and pricing and recommendations at the moment of open. And all of these modules are reusable, which has resulted in a 71% decrease in production time. So I think these 3 examples really underscore the power of real-time APIs and the connected tech stack. So to sum it all up, as digital marketing leaders, we really need to keep top of mind that we have to leverage all of our data assets, zero-party, first, second, and third-party data, to build a customer record and get a real 360-degree view of the individual. And with that data, we can create personas, segments, and models that will allow us to scale out our approach to personalization. And speaking of scalability, we can leverage template systems that enhance our ability to deliver personalized content across touchpoints. And while those templates are a big component of scalability, we also need to leverage software that creates efficiencies so that we can slash production time and then focus on strategy over production. And many of those efficiencies can be found by connecting the tech stack to activate data across partners in real time. So with that, I hope that everyone in the audience has enjoyed the content that Brian, Matt, and I have presented to you today. And we did see some questions come through during the presentation. So we're going to take the remainder of the time to address these. And for those questions that we do not get to, we'll be sure to follow up directly after this webinar. So with that, Kristen, our wonderful moderator, will pick up on some of those questions.
Okay, so I see a couple of questions coming in here. So I'll do, this first one is for Julio. So it says, do you have any tips for applying some of these integrated APIs and templates into my current campaigns?
Great, that gave me just enough time to take a sip of water. So tips for applying integrated APIs into current campaigns. So I would say that first, you would want to start with an audit of the tech stack. You want to get the lay of the land and understand what you have access to. This may mean roping in other internal stakeholders like your IT team to make sure that you really understand what is actually available to you. And what I would recommend is you make sure that any of these stakeholders that you have to rope in really understand your vision and what you're looking to accomplish, because that'll help really set the tone for your strategy. I also would say that you should reach out to your tech partners and have them provide you with more details on what data they can make available to you. And then once you have that, you can work with your Movable Link account manager to create a roadmap that takes a crawl, walk, run approach to deploying the different use cases that you will come up with.
Great. So this next question, I believe, is for Brian. So it says, how do you prioritize when and where to incorporate personalization or advanced personalization into your communications?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know for many marketers, they have to pick and choose their spots, right, and make sure you're getting the best benefit from your efforts. What we really recommend is starting with the customer journey. So map your customer journey out as best you can from the time that your customers are, aware or of your services and products through consideration, through the actual transaction purchase experience to advocacy, and then how that cycle continues over time. And use that customer journey to identify where personalization or additional advanced personalization can add the most value to either move that customer through that process or to enhance their experience with your brand. And then as you identify those points in the customer journey and you can prioritize where you think you can add the most value, develop a phased roadmap in terms of implementing different types of personalization, building test and learn activities around that roadmap, and then you can begin implementing, take those learnings, and continue to advance through your roadmap.
Great. So we have time for one last question, and this one is actually for Matt. So it says, is the template system software, meaning is it a WYSIWYG tool to make emails?
Oh, good question. No. So the template system is just a single HTML document. Pretty valuable one. But from there, how you use it is up to how your team makes email. So what I mean is we created a template system for PayPal. We provided it to them. They inserted it into a WYSIWYG tool on their side. The same is true with Marriott Bonvoy. When their brand updated, we updated their template system, and they inserted it into a separate tool to create email. However, you can insert it in your ESP WYSIWYG tool. You can insert it in a separate HTML editor. How my team uses it is basically good old-fashioned Dreamweaver and HTML editor. They open it, look at the code, look at the preview screen, and simply manipulate it that way. So the template system is just an HTML document. How you use it depends on how you currently create email, and it's pretty flexible. It can be inserted into WYSIWYG tools or used manually with an HTML editor.
Great. So that's about all the time that we have for today. I would like to give a big thank you to Matt, Brian, and Julio for their presentations today. And the webinar recording will be in a follow-up email, so please be on the lookout for that. And thank you, everyone, for your time today, and have a great rest of your week.